Hello friends and welcome to my channel IBOL Designing Developer. So like you all know that previously we have covered up many of the things using C++ and in the previous video I have told you about encapsulation, like how to use encapsulation, why we use it and what's the purpose to use that. So in this video we will be learning that what is inheritance in C++. Previously on we have already learned about inheritance but in different language like in Python, and in C also we have learned that what is inheritance, but now we will be seeing if we are starting with inheritance in C++, so how we have to use, how we have to work with it, and what are the elements and tags which we will be using here to use inheritance in C++ here. So if you understand this tutorial here from start, and if you understand this video here, so remember to hit a like to this video, and if you're new on this channel, want to see more videos like that, so remember to subscribe, and after subscribing, hit notification bell as well so you can get the notifications of all my coming up videos which I'll be uploading on this channel. So now what we are waiting for, let's move to computer screen and let's get started. So now here we are on the computer screen, and like I've told you in the start that today in this video I'll be telling you about inheritance, like if we are using inheritance in C++, so why we are using it and what the purpose to use inheritance in C++, because already we have worked on inheritance but in different languages, like we have learned that how to use it in Python and C, but now we will be learning that how to use inheritance in C++. In C++, it is possible to inherit attributes and methods from one class to another. We group the inheritance concept into two categories. So you can just say there are two categories of inherit attributes and method which we use from one class to another. First is derived class, which is called as child and the class that inherits from another class. Base class, which is called as parent, the class being inherited from. To inherit from a class, use the semicolon symbol, like if I want to inherit anything from my class, so for that I will be using this semicolon symbol here. And in the example below, the car class child inherits the attributes and methods from the vehicle class parent. So now the first class which I have told you, like the first inheritance value which I have told you, is called as derived class, which is called as child, and the second is base class, which is called as parent. So now the example which we are using, in that example the car class which we are using is called as child inherit, and the second which we are using is vehicle class, which will be called as parent. So these are the things which we are using. Now the first class of vehicle which we are using is called parent, and in this class we have written a public specifier, and in this public specifier I have defined some value, like I have defined one string which is brand, and in this brand string I have defined one value which is Ford is a car name, so that's why I've written this Ford. You can give any other car name as well, like Audi or any other which you want. And then after that I have created one other keyword, means this is a specifier, but in this specifier I have created a keyword as void because I want this value should be having any return value. That's why I'm defining another class of honk, and in this honk class I am writing some values here which is tut like this, so that I can get these values printed with this car name as well. So that's why I'm writing these things. If you don't want these things should be printed, so you don't need to use the class name, or if you want any other thing should be printed in the class name which you are using, so you can write any other thing as well, but I am using a class name honk. You can use any other class name as well, but define this keyword, which is really important to do because I am defining a class name and I want to return a value from that. That's why I'm using this keyword. If you're not using this keyword directly, if you're using class like I'm using here in the vehicle thing, so for that you need to just not return any value, but we are returning the value. That's why we are using the keyword. And remember the thing which we are using here, this whole thing will be called as base class, which is parent. Now if I move down and if we just write the derived class here, and derived class will be called as child. So remember this whole thing which we are getting here is called as derived class. In derived class normally we have used a class which is called as car, and it will be a child class, and in that we have created a specifier as public in which we have written vehicle as the parent class, and after that again we have created another specifier of public in which I have written the value as a string model equal to Mustang, which is an other car name which we are writing here. And then in this car name, when we are just writing this car name and the other one which we have written at the top, so we are defining all these things in the main function so that I can call my classes which I am using. First we have called the base class, which is mycar.honk, and the second which we have used string model, we have called that as well in our init main function, so that we can get both the things printed in the output. And that's the way to use these things, derived class and base class. First of all, we are using base class because it is a parent class here, that's why. And secondly, we are using car class because it's a child inherit, that's why. Now if I move down and if we see why and when to use inheritance, so it is useful for code reusability. reuse attributes and methods of an existing class when you create a new class, and that's the quality of inheritance which you can apply when you're using it, or it's really useful for code reusability. You can use for that as well, but I prefer you to use both classes, base class and drive class. But normally if we talk about what class we use most, so it's base class, because I have written at the top as well this thing, because this thing used many times in inheritance when we are using it in C++. Inheritance is like you can say not really important to you can say like learn these things, but I'm just telling you to learn because this can be really apply, you know, like it can be really helpful for you in the programs and all that stuff. So that's why I'm just saying you to learn these things. And then if we talk about drive class, so that's the second most important in the inheritance, which is also really important to learn, because in this we are using two specifier, and like you all know that in previous classes which we have used like public keyword, like public specifier only one time, but in drive class we are using like, you know, two times public specifier, which is really good here, because if you're using two times public specifier, so we need to understand why we are using it and what output we are getting when we are using it. So what I'm going to do is now I'll be copying these all things, base class and drive class, and then I will be just moving on to my Google Chrome, and I'll be just showing you that if we are using these all things here, so what output we will be getting here is. Now I will be removing this encapsulation which we have learned in previous video, and in the place of it I'll be writing here inheritance. So I'll be writing like this, inheritance in C++, and I'll be pressing enter. After doing it, you can just see we have saved all the things and we are getting all the things working. So I'll be writing starting codes here as include iostream. Then we have to write using namespace std as well, and then we don't need to define init main, because we will be defining it after calling all the things, like after calling the classes, so it will be automatically be defined here down. Now what I'm going to do is I have pasted all the things, and remember when you're working with these all things, when you're writing anything in the C++ file, so in the end you need to write this return 0 value as well, which is really important to write, because if you are not writing this, so you will be not getting perfect output in your console. So that's really important thing which you have to do. Now first of all, if we talk about the base class, I have already explained you that what are the things in the base class which we are using, but again if we talk about the practical thing, so it's really different in practical when we are using it. So now what I'm going to do is I'll be running this here, and now we'll be seeing what output we are getting when I'm running these things here. So after running, you can just see first thing which we are getting is tut printed, and remember one thing, this text which we have written tut, this is only written in this class which is base class, and when we are defining it, so the first thing which we are getting is this text but not Fort and Mustang. Why is that? Because when we are defining anything in the base class as count, so the value will be coming printed as first, and if you are not using count function, or you can say a count tag here, so you are defining a Fort value, but we are defining this Fort value in a string. That's why we are getting both a string printed equals to each other, but we are not getting Fort with tut like the text which we have written, and then we are not getting Mustang, because the thing which we have written this text, it is in count, and count is a different value, or you can say a different tag. That's why this text is printed first, and the Fort which we have written in a string brand is printed after that with Mustang, which is written in another string called model. But we have not defined these strings, because normally if we are defining a class here, so we don't need to define these strings here in the output, or you can say in the file of C++. So that's why I've normally defined my both classes, which is base and drive, so that I can get the output printed. So I hope you understand how we are getting these output printed, and how we are using inheritance in C++. If I show you here after going like to my document, here also it is written that it is useful for code reusability. Like I am using code reusability here, like I am doing code reusability, that's why I'm using inheritance, and it can also reuse attributes and methods of an existing class when you are creating a new class. And we are creating normally a new class with different attributes and methods, like we are reusing the methods and attributes here, so that's why we are creating a new class as well, and that's the thing, and that's really important to learn. So I hope you understand how we are using inheritance here in C++. So if you have understand this video, and if you enjoyed that, how we can learn inheritance and how to use inheritance thing here in C++, so remember to hit a like to this video. And if you're new on this channel, and if you want to learn that how we can start with inheritance with base class and drive class in detail, like how we can create a program using these all things, so you can comment me and you can ask me that. Or if you want me to make this program using these two things, so I'll be doing that in future, no problem with that. So I hope you enjoyed this video here, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as well, in which we have learned all the things about inheritance. The first thing important inheritance is base, and the second thing is drive. So you need to focus on these two things here. So I'll be just coming up with more tutorials of C++ here, and I hope you have checked out my previous tutorials as well, which are really helping you, and I hope you're learning things from that as well. So I'll be just meeting you next tutorial here for today. Goodbye.